What is ocean acidification? Ocean acidification refers to a reduction in the pH of the ocean over an extended period of time, caused primarily by uptake of carbon dioxide, CO2, from the atmosphere. What is ocean acidification? Watch our video for a quick overview. For more than 200 years, or since the Industrial Revolution, the concentration of carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere has increased due to the burning of fossil fuels and land use change. The ocean absorbs about 30% of the CO2 that is released in the atmosphere, and as levels of atmospheric CO2 increase, so do the levels in the ocean. When CO2 is absorbed by seawater, a series of chemical reactions occur resulting in the increased concentration of hydrogen ions. This increase causes the seawater to become more acidic and causes carbonate ions to be relatively less abundant. Carbonate ions are an important building block of structures such as seashells and coral skeletons. Decreases in carbonate ions can make building and maintaining shells and other calcium carbonate structures difficult for calcifying organisms such as oysters, clams, sea urchins, shallow water corals, deep-sea corals, and calcareous plankton. These changes in ocean chemistry can affect the behavior of non-calcifying organisms as well. Certain fishes' ability to detect predators is decreased in more acidic waters. When these organisms are at risk, the entire food web may also be at risk. Ocean acidification is affecting the entire world's oceans, including coastal estuaries and waterways. Many economies are dependent on fish and shellfish, and people worldwide rely on food from the ocean as their primary source of protein.
Here is the serving Republican Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina on that movie, on Black Panther. He says it is, quote, created by an agnostic Jew and put to film by a satanic Marxist. He calls it, quote, this trash that was only created to pull the shekels out of your Schwarze pockets. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. Tomorrow on Super Tuesday, he's actually going to be running in the North Carolina primary to try to become his party's nominee for governor of the great state of North Carolina. Here he is calling survivors of school gun massacres, quote, media prostitutes, as in prostitutes, but prostitutes. He calls them spoiled little bastards who need to shut up. Again, this is for kids who lived through a school shooting that killed 17 of their classmates. They need to shut up. He calls public school teachers, quote, wicked people. And not for nothing, he says this about the Holocaust. He says, quote, Hitler disarming millions of Jews and then marching them off to concentration camps is a bunch of hogwash. He is the Republican Party's leading candidate to be their party's nominee for governor of the state of North Carolina. He will be on the ballot tomorrow in that state. He's already lieutenant governor in North Carolina. On Friday in Florida, Republicans in that state legislature passed yet another new law to restrict any teaching about racism in the United States. This happened just this past Friday, just a couple days ago in Florida. And in the debate over this new Florida bill, one Republican Florida state representative said that while this bill overall will restrict teaching about racism and things like slavery in Florida. He said there is one specific thing that he wanted to make sure is included in public education in Florida from here on out. He said while he supports this bill, he does want to make sure everybody's aware that slaves were, quote, paid for their work. And so he wants to make sure that's taught in schools. And then he voted for the bill. This, of course, comes in Florida after the state's Republican governor tried to claim during his presidential campaign that there were actually a lot of underappreciated benefits of slavery for the people who were enslaved. The chair of the Florida Democratic Party put out a statement in response, clearly just mystified, saying, quote, Florida Republicans are hell-bent on teaching our children that slavery wasn't bad. And it is hard to argue. I know it's insane, but it keeps happening. Pop over to Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, Republicans control the state government there, too. And like just about everywhere, that's true. Oklahoma Republicans have now banned abortion in almost every circumstance. But that apparently is not enough for them. Oklahoma Republicans are now moving a new bill that would create a state registry of every woman who does still find a way to get an abortion. I wonder what Oklahoma Republicans will want to do with a state database of women who have undergone abortions. I'm sure they want it for only the most respectful and responsible reasons. Other lawmakers are warning that the way the Oklahoma bill is written, it looks like it's also, in addition to creating a registry of women who have had abortions, it also seems intended to ban contraception, including forms of contraception like the IUD. That's what Oklahoma Republicans are up to. In Alabama, you may remember the 9 Republican justices on the Alabama Supreme Court issued a unanimous ruling that effectively outlawed fertility treatment in that state. After Alabama's Supreme Court Republicans did that, Democrats in Congress in Washington introduced federal legislation to protect fertility treatment and protect IVF. That legislation was blocked by Republican U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. There are 219 Republicans in Congress right now. In the House, there's 219. Of that 219 number of Republicans, 125 of them are co-sponsors of legislation that would ban IVF. And arguably many popular forms of contraception as well. 125 House Republicans, more than half the Republicans in the House, co-sponsored that, including the Republican Speaker of the House. 125 of them. 195 of them voted against contraception, full stop. The Right to Contraception Act was introduced by Democrats after the Republican appointees on the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. The right to contraception. Only 8 Republicans in Congress voted for that. 195 voted against. And let's just stick with healthcare just for a second. Florida again. Florida, they are now contending with a super worrying outbreak of measles. Measles, like it's the 1800s or something. One of the most transmissible pathogens on Earth. And one we don't typically have to worry about anymore in this country because for 60 fricking years, we've had a totally effective vaccine against measles. Except in Florida, Republicans picked a very special state surgeon general who's now telling Florida parents, who am I to suggest that perhaps kids should be vaccinated against measles?
Yesterday, the Florida Department of Health released a letter from Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo emphasizing how contagious measles is, but did not urge parents to vaccinate their children.
He does not, which is an interesting letter from a Surgeon General.
Beyond who am I to say your kids should be vaccinated, the hand Republican-picked Florida Surgeon General wouldn't even say that kids with measles should stay home from school while they're infectious and symptomatic with one of the most transmissible, potentially fatal pathogens known to mankind. Measles in Florida. Not to be outdone, now the Republican Party's leading presidential candidate is saying on the stump that he will withhold all funding, not a penny, from any school anywhere in America if kids have to be vaccinated to come to school. Kids have to be vaccinated all over the country, everywhere, against measles and mumps and polio. I mean, it's been true for decades. It's been true for generations. But just in case you've been missing, I don't know, iron lungs, the Republican Party is raring to go this election year with a new measles and polio for all the kids plan. And what swing state busy mom and dad isn't going to want to get the whole family to lick that doorknob and vote GOP this November with that kind of platform on offer to the American people? Can we get a smallpox over here? How about some tetanus for the little ones? Whooping cough like it's going out of style. I do want to give the Missouri Republican Party a little bit of a shout out, though. A little salute, a little stiff-armed salute, perhaps. This gentleman, not the one in the Klan robe with a sheet over his head, but the guy next to him. And you can see him also in this photo. He is not the guy with the full Klan neo-Nazi uniform on with the tie on the right. No, he's the guy next to him. You can see if you put the images next to each other, he's got the same little thing on in both images, the glasses around his neck on those like croquis style things. Yeah, so that guy, the one who, with the burning cross behind him, is making the Roman salute with the Klansmen, and then in the other photo with the neo-Nazi uniform guy in front of the neo-Nazi flag, he is running for the Republican nomination for governor of the great state of Missouri. And I said I wanted to shout out the Missouri Republican Party here, and I do, because they are now frantically trying to remove him from the ballot. So the neo-Nazi Klan guy can't be their Republican nominee for governor. Once they announced that they were trying to get him off the ballot, he responded this weekend saying, quote, "The GOP knew exactly who I am." Republicans in Missouri, including the Missouri Secretary of State, are trying to get him off the ballot now fast, while also trying to explain away what appear to be themselves like taking pictures with that guy. While he says, "You knew exactly who I was." You want one from Georgia? In Georgia, Republicans there are on the cusp of approving a new license plate, a new official license plate for the state of Georgia. And this one comes with a little history. In 1944, right, this is the apex of the Allies' final push to defeat the Nazis and win World War II. When FDR was running for his fourth term in office, the Republicans ran Thomas Dewey against him in the 1944 election. There was also a third party in the mix in 1944. They ran a preacher for president in 1944 who called himself a Christian nationalist. He ran on a platform that said that all American Jews should be forcibly sterilized and then deported from the United States. That party was called the America First Party. Around the same time, there was also an organization called America First Incorporated, America First Inc. The leader of that group received a patent for a club that he said was specifically designed to murder Jews in America. He patented it in men's and ladies' sizes. He called it the Kike Killer, forgive me. He ran an organization called America First Inc. Both those organizations, the America First Party and America First Inc., in the 1940s were trying to capitalize on the notoriety and the name recognition of the America First Committee, which had at one point been very popular in the United States, but it started to wobble a little bit after its chief spokesman in 1941, Charles Lindbergh, gave a big speech in Iowa saying the only reason we were going to end up fighting in World War II is because the Jews were going to make us do it. The America First Committee and the America First Party and America First Inc. Georgia Republicans are about to approve a new taxpayer-supported official state Georgia license plate that says America First on it. The Republican Party is kind of amazing right now. No matter where you look, no matter what state you look, contraception, if you're trying not to have a baby, that's over. IVF, if you're trying to have a baby, that's over too. The Holocaust denier should be the Republican nominee for governor. The sterilize the Jews and deport them movement should be memorialized on official state Georgia license plates. We want really, really, really small government that's nevertheless big enough to make an Oklahoma state registry of every woman who's ever had an abortion, and we'll tell you later what we're going to do with it. Slaves had it great, actually. Slavery wasn't so bad. Let Florida Republicans tell you about it. It's retirees. It's the AARP that's the real evil in America. Tetanus and measles, honestly, they're kind of cute when it's for babies. And did I mention that on Friday, the leader of the Republican Party, the next Republican presidential nominee, is going to host at his home the authoritarian dictator of Hungary? Because dictators are kind of a thing for those guys right now, like polio is. We're back. I mean, the Republican Party is going through some things right now, right up to the top, and in every state in the country.
My fellow Americans.
Estados Unidos celebra.
When you purchase through links on our site, we may earn an affiliate commission. Here's how it works. 10 devastating signs of climate change satellites can see from space. Climate change is affecting Earth so seriously, its consequences can be seen from space. In August, climate scientists from around the world wrote the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, Sixth Assessment Report, a state of affairs of human-caused climate change. And in this report, scientists reaffirm the disastrous consequences that climate change's effects will continue to have. They show that as the globe continues to warm, weather patterns are becoming more severe, the seas more unruly, and disasters more unpredictable. These effects are even visible to Earth-observing satellites watching from space. Satellites see climate change's impact in the form of wildfires, melting ice, shifts in the seasons, growing floods, and much more. Rahul Rao. Rahul Rao is a graduate of New York University's SHERP and a freelance science writer, regularly covering physics, space, and infrastructure. His work has appeared in Gizmodo, Popular Science, Inverse, IEE Spectrum, and Continuum. He enjoys riding trains for fun, and he has seen every surviving episode of Doctor Who. He holds a master's degree in science writing from New York University's Science, Health, and Environmental Reporting Program, SHERP, and earned a bachelor's degree from Vanderbilt University, where he studied English and physics. More about science astronomy. Latest. See more latest. What are radio galaxies? What is the biggest planet ever found? What is Steve, and how is it different from the aurora? By Stephanie Waldeck, November 06, 2023. More from space. 1. Photographing the northern lights with the Sony A7 RV. 2. This iPhone app can find the Milky Way's monster black hole from anywhere. 3. NASA's ice-hunting Viper Moon rover getting ready to slither to the launch pad. 4. Wine F7GB2 drone review. 5. Can Antarctica serve as a model for international cooperation on the moon? Space is part of Future US Inc., an international media group and leading digital publisher. Visit our corporate site. About us. Contact Future's experts.